Chapter 18. All along. You can't go. Wade's face became redder with each word. I have to. This has always been the plan. Patiently, Skye explained for the third time what her plans were, as the four of them sat, ill-tempered, around the table. This has gone even worse than I imagined. She understood, I felt it too, but she had to go. Well, we can't take off just like that, Wade said, offering another excuse. Dylan has been checking in on people. We gotta let them know. Her brow wrinkled. I didn't mean for you two to take us. Dylan's face flashed bewilderment, and it confirmed what Skye had been suspecting. For Dylan, the attraction between them was far more serious than it was for her. It's best to leave now and make a clean break. Something started in her, and him, on that little trail, but it's something she wasn't ready for yet. Skye's mouth dried as she tried to reason with them. What I mean is, I didn't expect your help to get there. I'm aware you have others relying on you. Dylan pushed back on his chair and crossed his arms. He refused to look at her. Skye reached out to him but stopped. I never kept this a secret. I've always said I was worried about Frankie coming for Jesse. Skye looked from Dylan to Wade and back again. But you've done so much for us. I can't thank you enough. What we have been through has drawn us closer together, and that makes it hard to leave, but this is probably best. Dylan didn't say a word. Instead, he sat looking out the window as if wishing he were anywhere else as he gnawed on the side of his finger. Wade was the one that fought for them to stay. After the beating we gave Frankie, I doubt he would try to come after Jesse. Sides he's pry, you know, he said with a side glance at Jesse. He'd lowered his voice, ignoring that Jesse was sitting right beside him, and understood he meant dead from the AG flu. And if he ain't, well, he don't know where we live. Skye sighed and held a hand to her forehead. If that were the only problem, I know you two would take care of it. But I can't not go. I can't sit here worried my family will get sick and die when I can do something about it. She wiped away a stray tear. Dylan sat up a little straighter in his seat. He spoke bluntly, staring at Skye's startled face. Whatever's gonna happen, is gonna happen. You dying alongside some road somewhere ain't gonna make any difference. Jesse looked from Skye to Dylan. We can come back, can't we? Dylan and Wade wouldn't let anyone take me away from you, I know they wouldn't. Skye gave Jesse a concerned glance. But if the police ever got involved, they really couldn't stop. Dylan bristled. Not even the cops. Nobody's taking the boy. Jesse smiled. See, Skye, they're like me. We help each other, and you help us. We all need each other. Say we can come back. This depth of emotion was a rare thing for Jesse. He was attached to these two men. If he felt this strongly about leaving, it was something she had to consider. Skye gave his arm a little squeeze. Okay then, Skye shot a questioning look at Dylan, what if we do come back? How would that work? Wade looked from Dylan to Skye and sucked in his lip. It made a squeaking noise. Dylan shook his head. If you made it back, your family would have everything they need. We wouldn't let them go hungry. Skye smiled, she'd never thought he would. You're right. It would be better for them here. They'll run out of food where they are, but here they would be able to farm if this thing keeps up. Could we take one of the empty cabins? The idea grew on Skye and her enthusiasm showed. What about that, Jesse? She looked at each of the men with her eyebrow raised. Would it be okay if my family came here? Dylan frowned. If you leave here, you ain't going to make it back. I go 10 minutes down the road yesterday, and you're whining at me I went too far. And you want to go, what? Hours? And expect us to be all right with that? Skye's wide-eyed gaze lowered to the table. She did say that. He has a point. Why does he always have a point? She tried to reassure him and her churning stomach. It'll be okay. I told you, I won't get out of the car and It won't be okay. Why can't you see that? Dylan threw his hand toward the door. You don't know what is out there, and it'll kill you. What you taught me will keep me alive. I ain't taught you nothin'. You'll need a lot more than that. Dylan reinforced Sky's own concerns. You don't even know what Colton is like, and it's hardly down the road. Maybe it's better than when I left? She couldn't stop herself from sounding hopeful. It ain't gonna be better. Things started in motion a ways back, and things aren't getting better. Ever. This is the way it is now. Sky totally missed his point, instead, focusing on one thing. So you've seen it? Colton? From the hill, Dylan said. Ain't nothin' hardly moving down there. So, it is safe to drive through? No, that ain't what I'm sayin'. Dylan leaned toward her as he ran a hand through his hair. Why won't you listen, woman? Why won't you stop yelling, man? At that, Dylan leaned back in his chair, crossed his arms and in a mocking tone said, Tell me, Doc, what exactly is the proper reaction when you see someone trying to kill themselves? Sky lowered her head to her hands and groaned. This is getting nowhere. Dylan calmed himself and leaned forward in his chair. I made you a promise out there in that yard, and I can't keep it if you go running off. He paused for a minute and his voice gentled. I'll do better. I can try harder, just stay. She raised her eyes to Dylan's guarded expression. With a catch in her throat, she said, Oh Dylan, this isn't about you or anyone else not doing well. It is just about getting to Dad. It was quiet for a minute, they could hear only the tick of some old clock. Sky took in a deep breath and blew it out again with each beat. She stayed calm but determined. Wade and Dylan, I need your help to map out the safest route, to make sure the car is in working order and to help my dad when I get back. And I am coming back. But I am going with or without your help. I have to. Don't you see, I have no choice. He will die if I leave him there. Sky looked at each one of them in turn. We're leaving in the morning. This time it was Sky who strode out the door.
Shoulda known this was coming, but I thought she'd change her mind. The fire that had been building in Dylan's belly doused with his take of the situation. I figured something was starting up with us. Apparently, she doesn't. He hung his head. Why should she? For all he knew, she went around hugging all kinds of men, looked up at them with those big eyes of hers. Probably not a man like me. A woman like her would have gone for a different kind of man than me. He pressed his lips a few times as he picked at his fingers. They were dirty from the fire, from being in the woods, from any number of other things he did today. He brushed his hands together trying to get some of the dirt off but was unsuccessful. Every night he scrubbed but there was always some stain left behind. It's wore into me. This is who I am, and it ain't likely to change. I need to stop looking at a woman who isn't looking at me. I'd reckon she'd at least want me around to help keep her and the boy safe. She's always going on about that, but then she just up and takes off like this. Dylan didn't know how he was going to keep his promise to her dad, short of tying the woman up, and he didn't figure her father would want him to go that far. Dylan looked at Sky and saw the distress on her face. Maybe when you're raised by parents that actually care for you, this is how you feel, willing to do anything for them. I shouldn't have taken that obligation. I only did it 'cause I thought, don't matter what I thought. That promise and the one he'd made Sky would haunt him. Dylan always kept his word, and now he'd broke it with two people. Foolish, naive, cantankerous, mule-headed woman. She won't listen to one word of reason. Dylan raised his hand and hit the table with his palm. Jesse jumped, but Wade just looked away. She will die out there. Dylan picked up some breakfast dishes and took them to the sink. As he did so, he caught his reflection in the mirror. He looked at himself the way he imagined she saw him, calling himself the names others had often called him. Dirty redneck, hillbilly idiot, son of an abuser. He'd figured out a long time ago that he wasn't high on any woman's man list. He didn't know why he'd reckoned any different now. A flash of anger shot through Dylan, and he slammed the stack of plates in the sink, ignoring the crack of the dishes as they hit the stainless steel. I ain't gonna be any part of this. Sending her off like I don't mind it a bit. Dylan's words ground against the back of his throat. He crossed the room, grabbing his filled backpack and took to his refuge, the forest.